Heller Barnes and Brenda, and we have a fantastic show. We're gonna have a great time today. And Mr. Heller is under the weather. He might pop in at some point in the show, but I told him he wasn't feeling good. He's like vertigo. So we wish him well. We look forward to having him back next week, and he might show up but I'm hoping he's sleeping or just relaxing. So if he joins us, fantastic. If he doesn't, well, Brenda and I are gonna have a great time. So
We're
you,
bringing the party. It's
yeah, you're
fine.
you're
Yeah,
you're one of those. So first thing I got to start off with, you're one of those three name peoples,
I
right?
am
And
Brenda Scott Wlazlo with a really annoying last name that looks nothing like it sounds. Yeah.
yeah, so you pronounce it Wazlo.
Yeah, the first L is silent, and it's just a Polish hanging on that, I inherited when I married my husband. So
It's cool, but here's the cool thing. Now you're unique, and when people now obviously many of us would spell it wrong. Okay.
yeah.
And I don't know about you because my last name being spelled funny, I have people
Right.
that will get it right, and then they'll pass it to somebody else who looks at it and says, "Well, that can't be right," and they'll fix it for them, and then it'll end up wrong again. And my grandfather, when I was a young guy, just said, "Don't get stressed out when people misspell your name. It's gonna happen your whole life." And it's like, yeah, now I'm old enough to go, yeah, you're right. So do you, I assume you've kind of come to grips with, hey, they're gonna kind of get that wrong here and there.
Yeah, it's like it's kind of I mean, for a while when I was still answering my phone, which I just don't do much
Right.
anymore. If it's not a number I know, it goes straight to voicemail, but for a
Right.
while, it was kind of like the indicator of whether or not you actually were someone I wanted to talk to,
Oh, because
and
if they
so
mispronounce it and they say, "Hi, Ms. Waziolo," and you
Yep,
go,
exactly.
you, yeah. Actually, I've had that too because they'll go, how's that pronounced?" And because it doesn't look like Barnes, it just looks like a typo, so they're not sure
Right.
whether it's Bonds or yeah. So same sort of thing. But I forgot that since I don't answer the phone very often either.
Yeah.
And you live now, for people that don't know, geographically, I think you're in the narration capital of the world, is that correct?
Oh, absolutely, yeah, Northern Michigan, like, just the pinky right here.
Right, now
Me and
people
me
that
and
are
Keith
not from
Brown.
Michigan, though, don't know that we so I grew up in the Detroit area. Wait, how did I gotta get that? So,
There you go.
I was down here, she's way up here,
Mhm.
and, and that's probably 250 miles?
Mhm. Yeah,
I don't
it'd be
really know.
about going, like, diagonal the state's very long.
Yeah,
It's, like, deceptively takes 2.5 to 3 hours to get it halfway to anywhere.
okay.
Like, Detroit is probably a good 5.5 hours away.
Okay. So what brought you to that kinda why did you end up, in Traverse City?
Yeah, I was born here,
Oh,
and my both sides of my parents, their families live in Northern Michigan, and so, when my dad, had a golf consulting job, and so he moved around a lot to different golf courses and all of that, and we followed. And we kept kind of this spot in Michigan as kind of like a family hub so that we could always come back and travel to either side of the family easily.
yeah.
So I spent almost every summer of my adolescence up here while we moved to, like, Kentucky, and we lived in Florida for a while, and, um, it kind of was the main spot, like, of my childhood. Everything else changed, it kinda stayed the same, and so, when my husband and I, who's also from the Midwest, were, thinking of places that we wanted to kinda settle down in, Chicago was a place that we were for a while, and then we decided we wanted to be in Northern Michigan for a little while to kind of see it and update my family home, so we've been becoming HGTV
Yes.
personalities in
As
our
we
spare
all do
time.
when we mature, I think. Isn't the funny thing I think my mom always was rearranging furniture and refinishing stuff and fixing this and doing that, and I
Who
yeah.
who doesn't wanna live in a construction zone in your 40s? I mean,
Yeah. And then what happens is, yeah, I've got all these projects going on and they're all half done and 2/3 done and 1/10 done. And I'm going to get some grief here because it's like, I'm going to get a yes. Why didn't you get this done? But whatever. So it's one of those things as we mature, we go back to sometimes what our parents did or the hub, and to be able to see people, it's a lot more important as we mature. And how long now did you do community theater? How did you get started back? Like,
Yeah.
I know you have a big, let's back up.
Hmm.
You tell us a little bit about how you started in this business, and before you were a narrator, you've been an actress for a long time. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah. I did community theater and stuff in high school. Went to college at Florida State University for theater. Got a double major in theater and communication disabilities, and that was also a passion of mine. And then I moved to New York and lived in New York and did pound the pavement and did,
Hmm.
like, Shakespeare in the Park, but not that park, the other park, like, the Avenue F Park in Jersey, and,
Yeah, I'd do Shakespeare in the alley or something. The back
yes,
alley that's what I would have ended up doing. But anyway, we'll leave that alone for now.
I ended up doing, quite a bit of theater and improv in New York and in Chicago, and so
True hubs.
yeah, I was doing, a lot of comedy, a lot of that kind of stuff. I ended up getting into audiobooks because, a fellow narrator friend of mine, Pavi, was in a show with me, and he quit his job and came to rehearsal and was like, "I got to quit my job today because I'm going full-time narration," and I was like, "What? What? Tell me all about this." And that was 2018,
Wow.
and so I started kind of, researching and coaching and doing all of that stuff, and by 2019, I also quit my job, and it's kind of been doing audiobooks full time ever since, and theater I have kept up with and I have done, but now I have a kid, and living in Northern Michigan, it's, like, a little less convenient to do theater than it was in Chicago, so
Right. Yeah.
that's taken a back seat at the moment, but it's kind of my first love. It was what brought all of my kind of, like, skills to, focus and kind of, like, honed everything and
Yeah.
was able to translate well.
So you can be an overnight success within a year of being a
Absolutely.
narrator because you had 20 years of plus. Probably less. You're not really old enough to do that. So I'll just say four
I'm
and a
not
half
really an
years.
overnight success in audiobooks either. That ship sailed.
Yeah, but it's cool. First off, most people don't realize your life experiences before you do audiobooks matter and give you all sorts of rich material to make this business flow as well. You may have some social skills that can feed into this. And it certainly helps. Every time I run into somebody that was an actor for a decade or more, they slide into this. And yes, there are details. Obviously, like, well, we'll talk about some of the differences, but they end up being able to transition and get more done in the first year or two than most people who start off with no background, because so many things translate.
Mhm,
Now, what do you think is different? Like, you come from the theater,
mhm.
you're all right. I got this, man. I can act. I assume you were a little bit confident. I mean, I would be. Is that correct?
Yeah, it was I think that one of the beautiful things when you're just starting out, like, in narration, we talk about kind of there's 2 aspects, at least when I'm talking to people who want coffee chats or, like, a 60-minute consult or whatever. Um, like, you have to have the talent, you have to be able to carry the storytelling, which I think the acting background helps, and then you have to make sure that all of the distracting things that would make a listener sit there and go, "What was that? Why what?" is are gone. And that includes all the tech, and it includes kind of the different nuances of the field of a microphone versus the field of a stage and an audience. And, like, those are the honing in. But if you have, like, a foundation in theater, if you can identify characters and their objectives and their wants and the conflicts, and you already know kind of like pacing and how dialogue needs to sound more natural and all of these things, right?
Right.
That then you have less to learn in this category than you do in this, so in that first couple years, you can focus more on this.
Right.
And then as year 3 comes, you might wanna take an acting for audiobook course, or you might wanna take some coaching, or, and then you just kind of build from here, and you can continue to rise in both categories. But coming at it from no experience at all, like, those 2 columns are both pretty insurmountable at the same time. You have to pick one or the other to focus on.
Yeah. Well, so what's different when you're sitting with a microphone 6 inches away versus being in a theater?
I really had to, especially when I was first getting started, and constantly have to be reminded about the audience of one versus the audience of many. The beautiful thing about theater is that there is this collective kind of energy and this shared experience that, accumulates at the same time as the performance. So, like, I am giving you something and I am immediately receiving feedback from it. Yeah, applause, or, the cone of silence when the joke falls, like, anything. And with narration, like, that part has to be imagined, and it has to be one chair and one person, and you, like, 6 inches from them, like Johnny always talks about, like, you're talking to somebody this close. It's a very intimate relationship, and that transition from trying to include everyone and make sure that everyone's understanding the story to just making sure you understand the story was a big a big mind shift. And I think people who have film experience probably had a less of that gap, because the camera ends up being that one person,
Right,
and
right,
you end up telling
right.
the story to the camera. So that is more similar than I think the theater, where
That
we
makes
have to kind
sense.
of include everyone.
I
Yeah.
never really thought about that. So the on-camera people, someone that's doing that acting, really, although the major difference there, of course, is they're doing one character for the whole. And the same with theater. Maybe at some shows every once in a while somebody's multiple characters, but usually it's one character per actor is most the historic thing. And now all of a sudden, so what do you like about playing all the characters? Are
I think, like, everybody that comes into audiobook narration has to have a little bit of a director hat, and that means they have to have a little bit of a passion for, like, zooming out and having a macro view of a story as opposed to a micro view, which is, an actor can really, like, relish and get to, like, get all the juicy bits out of that one character. And, like, as an audiobook narrator, we have to zoom out and we have to see where that character fits in and what this character brings to that story, and portray that authentically and grounded, and let them have a whole life outside of this journey as well. And I really loved that aspect. I think most audiobook narrators could probably go back into the theater and direct and be beautiful at it. They'd be able to really,
oh,
bring a really cool thing to it. And I have always loved the dramaturgy of getting into the stories, and always looked at kind of how these pieces fit together. I think that audiobook narrators greatly benefit from having those inherent kind of talents, being able to do that all in one book.
so you had a word there that's way over my vocabulary. Uh, what did you call it? Dramaturgy.
Dramaturgy, yeah,
Okay. Well, sorry. So please,
sorry.
please treat me like a 4-year-old. Well, explain that word to me, please.
So in most European, and, I'm not sure if other cultures have it as well, but they had a person that was designated to, really research the history and the, implications and the context of a play. And so when they would come to rehearsal, we kind of had an expert. You had, like, a genius guru who could sit there, and we were like, "Oh, well, she pulls out a red ribbon." And they'd be like, "Do you know what that red ribbon actually represents?" And we'd be like, "No, tell us." And so they would have this kind of, like, huge amount of knowledge about the world and the history and the context of the show, and it would be a resource for everyone involved in the show to be able to use them. And American plays don't or American kind of, like, theaters haven't used a dramaturg as much as, Europe has, and I think that it's coming into vogue, like, those extra little eyes and context clues and everything like that are becoming more,
Is the
but
director or the one that's responsible for that here in the
yeah,
States, sort of more?
yeah,
And
I
they
would think
they would end up if they hopefully, if they've done their homework, then they know what the red ribbon means and
right.
can tell us, or they notice that clearly, Don, you don't know what that red ribbon means because you're not treating it with the reverence that maybe if it's a flag, like for example, a flag obviously has to be treated different as a piece of cloth than a napkin or whatever else that you're hanging on to, because you don't want to have the flag dragging on the whatever, all the little things that we would treat a flag with a certain reverence, where we want to do that. That ribbon could represent a flag or a historical fact, and so that really is super cool. We got have the question here, so
Hmm,
and I have something else before I get into the questions though. You won an award. I think it's the Joseph Jefferson, I've got it in front of me, award for
mhm,
best ensemble in
mhm.
so an ensemble of one, meaning you were doing all the voices, or an ensemble of
This was, so audiobook, I have, the Benjamin Franklin Silver Award, and then the
wha-
Joseph Jefferson Award is it's an acting on stage award.
oh, cool.
So in my resume, I smushed them all together because I'm just like, "Award winning."
Yeah, no. I say
Look
that
at
too,
look.
but I don't tell them it's my dog awarded me as the best leash walker in my little region. So I
That's
get
award winning.
yes.
Don, put that on your resume
Yeah.
immediately and all of your socials and all of the
Yeah.
things. Yeah.
But tell us about that. So those two awards.
That was really, a cool experience. The Joseph Jefferson Award, the Jeff Awards are kind of like Chicago's Tonys, and so, they have them every year. The production that I ended up getting this for was a production of All Quiet on the Western Front, which is historically, a male which is also a book, which Keith Brown just narrated for Spotify.
Ah,
Um,
how cool.
and, it is a band of brothers type of thing, but it's from World War One, and it's from the view of, Russians or Germans?
Yeah,
I
I don't
forget.
know. East of the
Um,
Mississippi. We'll just leave it there.
exactly.
Okay.
And the ensemble that I was a part of was an all-inclusive ensemble, and so we had people of different disabilities, we had people of different, gender spectrums all portraying these characters, and we did it with a rock and roll, kind of flair.
Yeah. How
And
cool.
so we had choreography and dance numbers with, powder that would shoot out during the explosions. It was a really cool piece, and it won, like, 9 awards that season. I was
Wow.
v I it was one of the best theater experiences I'd ever had. It's really one of those that changes you as an artist, and I was really happy to see that, so many people were also resonating with it.
Wow, that is super, super cool. And then your award for audiobook stuff.
Yeah, the IBPA award, the Benjamin Franklin Award is for the Independent Book Publishers Association, and
Oh.
this was in 2019, I think, and it was the first time the category had been offered, and it was for an independent author, Angelica R. Jackson. She has a series, Fairies Crossed series, and I believe this one was for her first book, which is, um Merlin Stronghold's the 3rd, so I'm, like, going through in my head,
Yeah.
but, the series was the one that got the award, and I got the silver award for, best narration, which was really
That is
lovely.
super cool. Super cool. Well, let's take it. We have a bunch of people asking some good questions here. So we're going to start off with uh, what's your favorite theatrical role?
Ever, in the history or what I've done? I
No, for you, I guess. What do you
For
say?
me, I played Nora in A Doll's House, Ibsen's A Doll House, and it was pretty incredible. I could revisit that now, not being 21, and probably have a lot of fun with it as it was, I was a little young to play the role, so she's incredible, um, and then, like, really the fun thing about audiobooks work is that, like, you get all these kick butt characters that, like, normally only get seen every now and then in theater, so I've gotten to play some really cool heroines in, some fantasy series that I'm hoping will continue.
That's
Uh,
cool.
yeah, that's really cool. So, my favorite performance in audiobook is probably, I did a book from Macmillan called The Beasts We Bury, and it's a YA, dark fantasy, epic fantasy, and that one was pretty cool. She's pretty badass.
All right, all right. So well, now let's talk about technical stuff. So not technical, but just process. So how
Mhm.
much time do you spend working up a book before you go in the booth and lay down tracks?
Depends on it depends on the book, honestly. Like, I do a lot of romance under my pseudonym and, like, contemporary romance, I'm pretty comfortable in. Like, she's me, like, we're awkward and just looking for love, and, so I can grasp that story, like, I can prep it pretty quickly. I can read the book, I can maybe jot down a few notes, I can look up, a couple of references to cities or towns, and I can feel pretty confident going in. Epic fantasy, it's gonna take me a little longer because each place that's referenced there is created and is brand new, and I want the context, and I wanna know, like, what inspired the author to write those regions and to where does that fit in? And also all of the 500 characters, what do they sound like? Do we know? All of those things take a little bit more time. But overall, I do about a book a week, depending on, how many finished hours it is, and, I usually am
So, you know,
starting the
I don't
prep
mean to
process about it.
I don't mean
Go,
to
go, go, go.
interrupt, but if so, so a book a week, you're cranking out 8 hours of finished, 10 hours as these 8 to 10 hour books. Are they short? That's a lot of books if you're doing a book a week.
I can do at least 2 finished hours a day, sometimes I can do a little more. I don't like pushing it much further than that because if you get behind for one day and you're marking 2 finished hours, and all of a sudden you have 4 finished hours that you have to catch up on, and that's a lot. So I mark out my recording schedule with it's hard right now because I have a split schedule, so right now my child's in daycare, and that's, like, great. I have my full 9 to 5 availability, and I can crank out 2.5 hours today, no problem. Tomorrow, he's not in daycare, and so then I am
Wait,
a
does that
mom.
change something if you have a child around?
Ugh, they're needy, man.
Yeah.
They,
Okay.
like they need stuff. So, I record at night then, and I will shorten it up. So, I can do if these like, a romance book is usually, like, 6, 7 hours, sometimes 5. That easy peasy in a week. A 12-hour book, I'll probably take the full week and the weekend, to kind of, like, make sure that I'm solid, but I mean, I try to schedule pretty close together because 'cause we're all trying to get work, right?
And are you while you're doing one, are you prepping for the next one? Like on your,
Mhm.
because obviously there's only so much time we can spend in the booth recording. So obviously, so you'll do that, and then when you get a chance, you'll be prepping for the next one. So by the time you're done with one, are you ready for the next one, or do you have a day or two in between?
I'm trying to get better at giving myself weekends.
Oh, when you figure it out, call me.
I will let you know because it's summer and it's gorgeous out
I've
and,
heard of that. I live in California. Oh,
right.
it's embarrassing when I don't get out for a week, but that's a different discussion.
There's sunshine
I've
other places aside from here.
I've heard of it in the morning. For almost every morning, I walk out on my patio and I will do my. I'm old enough that I do body weight squats. I do just to stay because I sit too much and all that kind of stuff. So I get
Little
out in the sun.
calisthenics in the sunrise.
Yes. So
Nice.
I'm working on making sure that I get a little bit of sunshine first thing every day. That's probably my 90% that I'll get that, and it's the first exercise I do. But let's see. So what I want to check out some of these other ones here. Um, so what do you do to stay organized? Now, if you're doing a book a week, you definitely are a very organized person. And if you have
I'm
a
trying.
child, that
Trying
forces
very
that.
hard. So I've had kind of like a journey. Google Sheets was kind of like the start of it, and then I moved to Airtable, and Airtable was really rocking me for a while, and now I have recently, in the past year, fully transferred over to Notion, which is a online platform that is, you can have multiple databases and they can all talk to each other. So I have like a prep database that I can write notes down for the book, and that'll connect to my project management database. So I can pull that up per project and keep a running tab of that. And that connects with my invoices. So I can go over and check my invoices. And I kind of geek out on like color coding stuff and like feeling like I have my life together. It's not always the case, but like
Yeah, but
I
that's a
I like
process you
building that
built
stuff.
up. So, but here's, I'm going to summarize that though a little bit. You started off with something that was accessible to you,
Mhm,
Google Sheets, excuse me, and then you worked your way up through 2 other products to where you are right now.
mhm.
Would you recommend if someone's starting off that they start directly with Notion or a database and a project management and an invoicing, or they do what you did?
I would say I recommend Airtable. Like, Google Sheets is great,
Mhm.
but, as far as I do think that, like, having databases, like, they're almost like pivot tables. They're just, like, automatically built in to be a pivot table. It's really beneficial to have that instead of just having sheets on sheets on sheets everywhere, and you're trying to keep them all in one spot. So Airtable's really good at that, and it acts just like Google Sheets if you want to just use it like Google Sheets, and
Mhm.
then it has some additional features that are really, really helpful. And then Notion, like, I would say I I'm teaching myself Notion as I go,
Mhm.
so I am still using it a bit like Airtable, where I'm like, "I understand how this talks to this, and that formula works this way." It is much like our DAWs, like, if you're working with Pro Tools or Studio One or Reaper, it's much more massive than what I'm using it for
Yeah.
currently,
Yeah.
but it's growing with me, and that's
Right.
exciting for me.
Oh, sometimes having a product that has depth like that means you can just use it in the simplest fashion now. And as your needs grow, you can keep on going and you're not having to relearn a different point of view with another piece of software. So having the things that have depth really can because most of the time the products with depth you can use them simply, or you can use all their deep features. And the simple ones, it's not that much different between Sheets and using Notion in its simplest format. Once you so after the first couple weeks, you're just at the same place you would have been if you were using Sheets, and then you can grow with
Mhm.
it over time. At least, is that close to what you're doing?
Yeah, I my initial transfer over to Notion was because it works with my Google Calendar. So as soon as I put a project, let's say like highlight across 4 days, I'm like these 4 days I'm recording this project, it puts it in my database.
Okay.
So there's never a like it's here but it's not here
Right.
problem.
Right.
And so that was my initial, like, I'm gonna switch over to Notion because I like this functionality, and then I've been able to incorporate more and more and more things from there, which has been really helpful.
So David here has a normal. Um, uh, uh, oh my, Notion sounds complicated. So you could think of it 2 ways. Absolutely. First off, you're right. But I don't like the word complicated as much as I like it has depth, and therefore, but how you use it will depend on how complicated it is. And the only reason you would ever do something quote complicated is that over time it gives you benefit and a return on investment. And I'm going to guess you feel now you're safe because you've invested. Now you've built this up over how many years? 4 years, 5 years?
Notion I mean,
No, I
like,
mean,
the
going
whole
through.
journey yeah, 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 it's
Yeah,
been,
yeah.
like,
I mean, you
8
started with a
years, yeah.
simple-ish, worked your way up, and over time you've gone to something that has more depth over time because, well, why you kind of just said it. It all of a sudden now you do one action and it updates your calendar at the same time as it updates your project, as it updates other things. And so, yes, that depth, but you didn't have to connect it to your calendar to begin with,
No.
you know? So it is, so Dave, you are correct. Notion has capabilities, but those capabilities over time save you. And now I'm just guessing, if you're doing it for a period of time, is it overall making you more efficient, taking
Oh,
less
yeah.
time? You
Yeah.
have less stress?
Yeah, the idea is to kind of set it. I mean, it's like, well, it's like Studio One and the Jumpstart class. You set it and you forget it. Like, you get it so it's functioning appropriately, and then I don't have to think about it anymore. I just highlight squares in my Google Calendar, and I type in the name of the project, and then I can go back and fill in the details later, but I know that I'm not gonna double book myself,
Right.
which is the important thing for me.
Right. That makes sense. I do think it's one of the things that people, I don't want to say misunderstand, but they just because a piece of software has depth doesn't mean you have to use it complicated. And a perfect example for all the more advanced DAWs, they have templates. If you go look at them and you don't have a template and you're starting from scratch, I don't want to say they're a nightmare, but there's just so many possibilities that you spend so much time trying to figure out, well, which thing do I want to use? Once you have a template in these different pieces of software, you actually do way less than the people using the quote simple software because they don't have the template systems that make it all easy. So
Mhm.
anyway, it's a whole discussion on that. Um, and then let's see, we have a couple other questions that are coming up here. Um, where do you find your inspiration for characters and their voices? Do you explore them in your prep? I mean, are you reading something and going, "Whoa, that sounds like Johnny Heller. I'm gonna do my Johnny Heller here with this one," or how do you do that?
I know that Johnny puts one of his old teachers in every single one of his books that he can. He's told that story a couple times, and I think that's cool. I have, like I do have some characters that if I'm like, if I'm prepping and I'm reading their dialogue and it sparks, a muscle memory of like, "Gosh, that sounds like my grandma," I'm gonna, use that. But a lot of times I'll cast them with celebrities in my head,
Yeah,
and then I'll
that's
just
classic.
yeah, I'll take like Dakota Johnson is one that, I used her and then a reviewer was like, "She sounds like Dakota Johnson." I was like, "Nailed it. Nailed it." But I'll take like 1 or 2 of their inflections or of their vowel sounds and kind of use that to inform, because 'cause I'm normally not gonna sound like exactly like the person, but
Yeah.
Scarlett Johansson smirks out of the side of her mouth when she talks and kind of does it really low, so all of a sudden, there's that character, and yeah, I do a lot of that to help kind of differentiate, and then I will have their picture up,
Oh, so
especially for
you go that far. You actually pull up their picture and oh,
yeah, especially for, like, a
why?
male character.
Why would you do that?
I like having a scene partner.
Oh,
I like having it helps spark that maybe the theatrical mind in me, but, like, let's say Henry Cavill is who I cast as the male main character. He's burly, he's gruff, he kind of has a gravelly voice.
so you have
So
a
I
picture of
pull
me up there.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah, yeah.
Don, you have gotten me
I,
through so many
I,
difficult books.
I have not been the inspiration for anybody's character other than, okay, trashy character. Ah, there's done. All right.
Johnny's gonna put you in one of his books,
Yeah.
you just wait.
He probably has. He probably has. Oh, I got to get somebody who's just, yeah. All right. But I do think all actors, you know, get inspired. I do the same thing in music. I imitate other drummers if I was playing a certain song and something would come to mind that I had heard when I was younger. And musicians are constantly stealing from other musicians. And I'd be playing this one song. There's a famous Louis Armstrong song that we would play, and I would be playing the groove from Rosanna in this one, and no one ever put it together. They're like, "You're doing Rosanna in that," and they didn't know because it came out differently, and I didn't play it like the original guy anyway. He played it much better than I did. But it's you're stealing pieces of art from other artists, and as much as I tried to imitate them, mimic them perfectly, In practice, I at some points for a couple things got pretty good at it, but most of them came out so different, and over time, I morphed them into something that was more me. But boy, imitation. And so, do you, when you see someone, you see a movie or something on Netflix, you go, "Oh, I like that character," and
It's a
bookmark
lot
them?
of yeah, I do it a lot with, like, TikToks. I have a whole
No,
TikTok genre saved of people
yeah,
if they have an accent,
that's
like,
smart.
there's
That's smart because they're short, little, obviously.
yeah.
Yes,
Those are good for, like, quick characters. If I have, like, a main male character or, like, a best friend that's going to become the main character in the next book or, those kinda things, like, I'll choose more well-known people to me so I
right.
can but the quick side character or if I'm trying to get an accent in my ear, I have a whole playlist saved of those in,
So,
like, TikTok and then on my bookmark page as well on my computer.
so that means you'll have a southern voice that you like, or and do you do even regional, or how granular do you get with tagging them?
I'll do Southern specifically, I feel like is one of the more well-known granulars in our demographic. So, like, somebody's from, like,
Louisiana.
Appalachia or Louisiana or Texas, like, you can hear those
Yeah,
differences.
there is a
And so,
difference.
if somebody's from Tennessee, I will pull up Tennessee references because I feel like the
Yeah,
consumer and now, like, Irish, like, every county in Ireland has a different accent,
right,
technically,
right,
but is our consumer gonna know
right.
County Mayo versus, like, Killarney? No.
No.
So, that's a little different, but yeah, Southern,
Well,
I'll do that.
Lisa, she does tons of voiceovers, and she has clients that one time ask her, "Can you do an American accent?" And it kind of surprised us that someone would ask that. And she'll be the first one to tell you, "Yeah, I do a UK accent, sort of." And she says, I always ask if it's a voiceover, is this going to play in the UK or is this going to be playing in the States? If it's going to be playing in the UK, then she's going to go, oh, okay. I'm going to now do Northern London, or she'll pick a zone. She
Yeah,
knows enough about them to go, oh, if it's going to play there, I now need to be regional specific if that's the. But if it's playing in the States, shoot, you have so much leeway. I mean, if the primary audience is here in the States.
and that's kind of the thing, like, we all have the capability of, like, spending 10 hours to prep a book if we really, really wanted to get into it, but none of us I mean, I shouldn't say should, but, like, monetarily,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
need to
yeah.
consider whether or not you can spend 10 hours prepping this book, and so, like, try to put my focus, especially when it comes to characters and accents and things like that, like, I wanna put my focus on the most important ones, and then that as the bubble gets wider and the side characters get broader,
Right.
that's kind of how my brain works.
Yeah, but I think it's good, and also nobody. I mean, I saw somebody was. I think it was Mel Gibson in his. He did, what was the one he did? It was Scottish or Irish or.
Braveheart?
Yes. So I saw a critic, an accent critic, who was saying, well, but his Irish was just terrible or whatever. And I'm thinking,
Scottish, yeah.
ah, okay, see, I'm totally messed up. But the point is that somebody who knew and knew exactly what accent was always doing this. And I'm thinking, you know what? Before I was in this business, as a consumer of a movie, I don't know if you do an authentic. I mean, for all I know, that's Russian. I just don't know, and I didn't really care. The character was fine. The movie did well, as long as he's consistent with himself. Then that's the bigger battle. So you can get into anything. And we have a couple other questions here that are good. Tell us about improv. Why in the world did you do improv? Who cares? What?
It was just, improv was a discovery in college. I ended up having a really awesome improv director and very good friend
Yeah, but
who
improv is just me making
did it.
crap up, right?
It's yes, and
Oh, very,
like,
very good, very good, very good. Quick.
it's, it hones a lot of, decision-making skills quickly, where you analyze something, you can, make one choice, only one. I teach improv for audiobooks at, New England Narrator Retreat as, like, a extra thing, and one of the reasons you choose one is because you need to have a strong choice, and then you have to go wherever that choice leads you, and for audiobooks, I think that's a really underused, opportunity that you can make a strong choice for a character, and then you can play. If you are grounded in that character, you have one choice, that she talks out of the side of her mouth. You can discover some really beautiful things that you never would have been able to pre-plan, that you never would have been able to kind of, like, um, orchestrate by just allowing yourself to play with that that saying, well, maybe she has some chewing tobacco in her mouth, so now every now and then, she's got a little slur because she's taking it back up. Like, those are things that you discover, and that's the kind of fun part of our job is that we get to play. So the improv background I have and what I try to bring to audiobooks with it is, like, get out of your head. Don't worry. Like, stop pre-planning everything, Brenda, and just choose something and play with it. And the best part about our job is if we don't like it, we can retake it. And you can just move the cursor back and you can do it again. And so you have a million opportunities to try things and have fun. And
Now, can
I
that
really
become a
like that.
trap as well? I mean, if I have a million choices and I can do 16 takes, um, that can burn some time.
It can.
And
It's a skill that you kind of have to also do. It's like, I can listen back to this and I can re-record this a million times. But is that first take really better, or is it just different?
well, that's the thing that I see. I'm a so when Lisa's doing stuff, sometimes she'll come back to me and she'll give me take one and take two and take three, and hey, which one of these do you think is better? I think, well, they're different. I don't know if I'd say they're better. What's before? What's after? And frankly, if you hadn't played me all three, any one of them would have been just fine and would have. I mean, that one line or whatever, that paragraph. There's so many ways of playing it, and we've come to the conclusion that probably in the 80 percentile, the first take, if you're a decent actor, if you're an experienced actor, is pretty authentic and often the one to go with, even if it's not. I was gonna call it perfect. I don't know if that's the right word for it. How about you? Do you do a lot of retakes on things? Or are you most of the time treating it like a theater thing where you bookmark it and say, "Oh, next book I'll fix that"? Well, how do you approach that?
I try to stay kind of present in the piece, and so part of my prep is, like, I will do more retakes if I'm less sure of my prep. So over
Okay.
the course of my, career, I've gotten a really solid foundation for my prep so that I feel like I know who these characters are,
Okay.
and that frees me up to be able to kind of go with the flow. If I am uncertain or I'm nervous, like, I might go back and re-record a whole chapter. Like, I've finished the book and gone back and re-recorded chapter 1 because I'm so much more familiar with the
Yes.
characters.
We do that all the time. Lisa taught me this. At one point, we realized that by the time she got down to the end, everything was just smoking. But she felt like chapter one, and we were both like, well. So in the beginning, we kind of came up with this whole thing that, all right, if it's 22 chapters, we're going to mentally think that it was a 23 chapter book, and we're going to assume we're going to go back and do chapter one again because we want to hook them. If you don't get them in the first chapter, if they hate that first one because it is weaker, then the whole thing is a waste. All that effort we put in trying to put out a great product. So for the longest time, we always thought of a book as whatever the chapter count is plus one, and then over time, now with proper prep and she's doing a series, she's never doesn't need to redo chapter one because she got it all figured out. But if somebody's new to this business, to add one chapter and then to go back and redo chapter one, the temptation for a while was, oh, should we do chapter two? And it's like, well, should we read the whole book? No. You have to probably find some place where it's like, I'm going to do one extra one maybe, but we're not doing more than that. At that point, fix it in the next book, right?
You're the one that actually, a while ago, I forget which class, or I've taken some coachings with you. I've also taken your Jumpstart class, and one of the things, and watched your YouTube. I'm done. You helped me so much. One of the things that I think you mentioned, and I'm going to start it and let you finish it because it's your story, is you talked about how the beginning and the end are kind of the two most important things because that's where people pay the most attention, and in the middle, they'll be more forgiving.
Right. Right. Well, it's just that I had a drum instructor who was constantly saying, "Look, you cannot blow the beginning. You are responsible to get that beginning right because everybody will notice if you make a mistake at the beginning, and you need to end with the rest of the band, and you need to end and have it be dynamic or epic or subtle, or it needs to end appropriately to lead the audience. If you overhang, and as a drummer, you want to end with the rest of the band." But his whole concept was the beginning and the end are the most important spots, and if you nail those, a lot of times people won't remember the mistake you've made in the middle. They just don't. And audiobooks are even better because how many times do you think the average person listens to an audiobook?
One time per audiobook.
Yeah, and the reality is it's really about 0.7.
Ha.
Well, if you think of it, because most people don't get. I mean, first off, how many Netflix series have you not gotten through the whole first season? Or I mean, there's so much content, so much so much entertainment that people can do. If they don't like and if they don't like the writing, my brilliant acting or production is not helping them like it even more. They don't
Mm.
like the characters, don't like the writing. So sometimes people just abandon a book after. And I even have some we'll call them self-help type things. They're on personal development or skill development, and I love those kind of books. And I get about a third of the way through, and I think this guy isn't doing it for me. I don't like the way he presents the topic or whatever. And I abandon
Mhm.
it. I got so many
Mhm.
things in my library to go to. So a lot of times people do not get through the whole book. So at the beginning, you want to bang, go out the door and really nail it and nail the ending. In the middle, they're more forgiving if I have a little something. So yeah, beginning, that's critical. Musicians
That's
do
got
that all
me
the time.
that's got me through a lot of books where I'm on chapter 17 being like, "Oh, just keep going. Just
Yeah.
keep going. It's gonna be okay. Very good. It's all gonna be a wash."
Well, and that's they at chapter 17, they like you, they like the story, or they're not there.
Mhm.
And therefore they put up with just minor little things, and that's kind of the kind of little great. And so I'm seeing some people in the comments saying that the recording is rough text. I don't know what's going on. So here's the thing, guys. We if it turned out, when I would always go back and check some things out, and if there was something that didn't work, then we turn it back. And we do it. We get to more have time to do it again. So yeah, every once in a while, I start on the internet. I have a good connection here. I've got an average 25 interconnection, so that I'm hardwired, so that at least here the IP is strong.
Yeah,
Now,
he's saying it's me. He's like, "Well, I'm fine."
no. You come to it comes to my stuff, and I know you're kind of strong. Yeah, a little near that going south, but it's not you. It's not you, it's me. Yeah. So hopefully, Tom. So you guys, send me a message if ever, and it's for any of these. If ever something is consistently not good and replay, then please let me know. So yeah. Here's another one here. Do you ever do any narration romance books?
Yeah, I have more just this year. It's becoming popular, so I have my little I don't know what my booth. I have the dog clicker for the duets, not for the punch and roll, the duets. And yeah, what a wild trip that is.
So
I
you,
don't I yeah, go ahead.
well, I assume you just send it off to somebody else and they put it together.
Yeah, I've never had a chance to record live with another narrator in audiobook format. I've done audio dramas, and I've gotten a chance to do that, and done an audio whole play where the entire play we were all in one sound studio, and we were in like group scenes, and it was fabulous. I've never gotten to do that, but I'd love to. I think it'd be so good. It's also so incredible.
Yeah. It's one of those things. So Tom's telling me that about 39 minutes that something happened. So my dashboard, I do have something on that says it could be is a maybe. The connection between you and he, just so you know, is super strong. So but that's the thing about doing live. If I was willing to record all these and then put them all up there, then I could do it. But
Johnny's sabotaging
you know
because
what?
he's got
Because he's
it here.
still, he's still on that. So just tell us in the chat if it's still rough or if it's smoothed out. Because it's really rough, then we'll just first off, more people need to know about you. Okay, so you're doing all this cool stuff, and your background is amazing, and I think you have some insights that people will be very interested in. And if it turns out that we get a comment or two where it's choppy for people out there, they're not able to do it, then we'll just slide back and do it again. Okay,
I
because
love that. I
that's
mean, I'll talk to you for hours. This has been
well,
lovely.
you have so much to help with, and it's amazing what you've done already. Now, having a child, that just complicates your life a little bit. But most of us have been through that, or are going through it, or having the rest of life happen. I mean, you have to be
It
more
brings
organized.
depth. It brings depth, like you said. Like it's just adding. Yeah, and it's really teaching me how to prioritize. It's teaching me what is actual productivity and what is wasting time. And yeah, all of those things are a clear focus when you have a baby.
Yeah. Well, so we learned since we have 5, they're all adults now. There were periods of our life where it's just a blur. Because the sleep deprivation, the having your schedule blown up in the middle of a great master plan for the week and then having it all totally blown up for a few days as they become sick or they have certain things, and you just learn to go with it and not get so stressed out about everything. But that took us a long time, but that was not a trivial thing. So you're obviously right. How old is yours?
It's 15 months.
Oh, that's perfect. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
like, we're just not getting our nights back, and I didn't realize. You don't realize in the thick of it how dysfunctional your brain is,
Correct.
like until you start getting all the hours of sleep back. And
Yes.
I'm like, oh wow.
But everybody goes through it. I mean, not everybody, but I mean, they do it, but they'll have something else. If they don't have a kid, they're going to have something else that causes
Mhm.
that same thing at some point. And one of the things, we're all self-employed, and with all your acting background, you are now learning Notion. And if I had told you 5 years ago that you were going to be working on the software that does planning and connects your calendar and helps you with your invoicing, I mean, was that on your bingo card?
No.
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 Okay. So we're self-employed. So in addition to all the acting things we talk about, the book prep we talk about, you are running a business. And I don't remember how Dave was talking about the fact that it sounds complicated. And the reality is, yeah, she's got good tools and she's worked up to them, but I'll bet you do less in managing over what you have going on than most people, because you're developing systems that are repeatable. And once you get them in place, it's not a big deal to make it all work. Am I close?
Yeah, I think one of the reasons why I got into starting to look into these things is that other people had templates and other people had like their systems. And I had a really hard time squeezing what I wanted
Yep.
into somebody else's system. I really had to figure out whoa, thumbs up,
Yeah.
what was most important to me and build off of the things that worked in their system, but I could, get rid of all the rest of the stuff. Some people love to track every little thing. I think that's amazing. I don't need that. What
Yeah,
I
I
need
don't either.
instead is synchronicity. And so that's my main focus.
Awesome.
And yeah,
Yeah. And the other thing is, everybody's an individual about this, and I have to track some things that you don't need to because of your background and your history, and vice versa. There's some things that I just don't need. I know I know when I start my day, I've got these 3 things that I have to have done today, and I have a list. I have a I'm anyway, I try because I've done software development and some other stuff, and, if you're not organized with some of that stuff, man, it bites you very quickly.
Oh,
So
yeah.
so anything you wanna promote, anything fun you have coming up here soon? We get to the end. I asked that earlier.
I mean, promotion-wise, I
You
am
coach, right?
yeah, I do. I really enjoy working with people, who are just starting out, that are just at the very, very, very beginning. Like, all of those coffee chats,
Mhm.
all of those times people are like, "Hey, can I pick your brain for free?" And you're like, "No. Here's narrator life. Here is narrator's roadmap. Go look." I really enjoy talking to people at that discovery part of where they're at because, I mean, you can go so many different directions.
Right.
So I consider myself like a beginner body coach and work on acting and that kind of stuff too. But yeah, I do coaching through that. So if you have anybody that is in you, you can give them my name. I would love to chat with them for an hour and get them to either decide they want to do this or decide they really don't want to do this because learning that early on is important. Knowing
Yeah.
how much it's going to take and we love it. So it is doable, but
Yeah,
it's
but
not
it's
it's not
also
easy.
yeah, and also people don't realize all the other sub things that we have to do. It's the same as being a musician or being any other artist. Everyone wants to play music. No one wants to practice. No one wants to go to rehearsal. No one wants to worry about equipment breaking down and driving to this or that to perform. And we don't have to do that in this business. But every every art, and this is a business, has all these components that people don't realize. You don't manage all that other stuff. You can't do the art part of it,
Mhm.
or you don't do it very well. You certainly can. And I will simplify things. So you can learn a lot from Brenda if you're smart enough to go ahead and give her a shout. And let me put up your site here. What's your site? I have your site.
BSWvoice.com and is the one that is for people who can't spell my last name. That's the easiest one.
Okay, let me make sure I get this right.
BSWvoice.com.
Did I get that right? Can you see that on?
Yep, yep,
Okay.
yep. Right.
All right. So that way you get Brenda and make sure. So people, I'll go check stream and do what I can see. And if this well, have Brenda back. 'Cause you're awesome, and it'll be nice to have you back when Donnie's here. And we didn't get a chance to talk about a couple things that are very important to you. I know you work with
So,
people that have some sort of days, and you sing with close and all sorts of great stuff you do with people, and we didn't get to talk about it. Is that
yeah,
good?
yeah, it's really obviously it's interesting, and we're just getting into it, and I'm so glad. It's awesome that representation is kind of being able to these conversations. So yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so we have a lot of other things to go over and some more of what you're doing. So you're absolutely wonderful.